Okay, so this is another podcast with We Are HR. My name's Natassia Heber, and I'm here today with Jenny Scrivener from Bohemian HR. And I chose Jenny because I've known Jenny for quite a while. We've both come from a recruiting background, and I really value her honest HR careers advice. And I think there's not many honest recruiters in the industry, and I really believe that when you're recruiting for HR professionals into HR careers, that there's an element of honesty that you should have.
Yeah.
And I do feel that Jenny at Bohemian HR has this. So if you guys are looking for a recruitment company to support you with any HR jobs, definitely for Jenny. So,
Thank
so
you.
no worries. So today's session is really about HR careers and having honest HR careers advice. Really because I'm positioning my centre to help those HR professionals that are trying to get into the career path of HR, and probably have some crossroads where actually I'm in maybe a HR assistant role and I'd like to progress up, or could be I've just graduated from university and I like a career path, but I don't know if HR is my career path. Then maybe you need some more coaxing that HR could be their career path. And then we have this person who's in HR for many years and feels that they're not really developing as fast as they would like to with any organization. What do they do? So I've got a few questions for Jenny. And the first question is, so Jenny, when somebody comes to you with their lovely CV, and you see that there's some areas for change, what's been the most prominent kind of things that you've recognized in CVs of late that you would recommend
Yeah.
potential HR candidates to make amendments and change?
Yeah. Yeah. So, gosh, I've been doing HR recruitment now for 25 years,
Yeah.
which I don't like to necessarily admit. And so I've advised a number of people across a number of, you know, sectors and, at different levels in relation to what they should be looking for from their HR career. And I've seen hundreds and thousands of CVs potentially, probably
Yes.
thousands. And what would I say are gaps? I think when you're looking to progress or start out in HR, the key is to make sure you're highlighting in your CV relevant experience. Now that's different when it comes to graduates to an experienced HR professional. So maybe if I start with graduates first, and how do I get relevant experience if I'm a new graduate? I may not have been in a working environment. So there's a few ways that we can do that as a graduate if we're looking to get into HR. So I think the first thing is understanding the role of HR. So what is it that an HR person does? And then breaking that down and thinking about the experience that you've had, life experience, over those years leading up to graduating that could be relevant, and highlighting that. Now, that could be anything from volunteering and showing the voluntary work that you've done and maybe the people-related skills that voluntary work has offered up. It could be your Saturday job and the exposure that you've had within your Saturday job. It could be groups that you're involved in, or work that you did as part of your degree. All of these things are relevant, but it's making sure that you're including the relevant stuff, not the stuff that's not, not the other. Yes, you can mention it, but the detail needs to come from the relevant skills that show that you've got some experience that you can bring to the fold. And that is tough. But looking at internships, for example, if you're doing a graduate degree, look for one that can give you a placement or an internship, because that's a great way of showing a grounding in HR already from a practical perspective. The other option would be if you could get summer work, maybe explore opportunities to work in an HR environment during the summer holidays. That's another great way of having some understanding and practical experience of working in HR.
Yeah. That's some really good advice there. That's so far some really good advice there, Jenny, really. I like that.
Thank you.
Looking at the summer jobs, that's a really good idea. And looking at some internships and also voluntary. And on the back of that, there's some really good volunteering websites that they can look at.
Mm.
Reach Volunteering is a really good website, and it looks at all volunteering opportunities
Yeah,
that are available around the UK.
yeah,
And if you filter it to HR, then you find some HR opportunities as well. So that's a good starting point.
yeah.
And and sometimes I do feel that you fall into HR, so you could work just as an office support person, and then you could be
Totally.
supporting somebody in HR, and then you start enjoying the bit of HR responsibility that you have, and then you want to expand on that with further study. Yeah, and that
Yeah,
could be an avenue that you consider taking. Um,
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
and I think that you're absolutely right. You know, if you're in an administration position or if you've worked in administration before, it's reaching out to people that you work for and letting them know what your plan is. You know, I
yeah,
want to grow in HR. I want to get experience of working in the human resources, people and culture
mm-hmm,
environment. You know,
mm-hmm,
if you've got any people related tasks you think I could help you with, let me know. So it's about putting yourself out there. I find that the people that have find the opportunities that they want to, you know, slightly pick up a bit of bravery and just go out and put yourself on the line a little bit and ask to get
yeah.
the exposure. It really will pay off.
Yeah, I think putting yourself out there and asking, because no one would really know unless you promote that you're actually actively looking to get into HR. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so the other question really is a bit about different avenues in HR.
Mm.
You get that first stepping stone into HR, and then how do you know which avenue to choose or what avenue is best for
Yeah,
me?
yeah.
How do you know? And if someone was to ask that question, I'd say, oh, trial and error. That's it. You just know.
Well,
You know
yeah,
what you like. It's like food. I know I like this and I don't like that. And that's kind of how do you know? Because you try it and you think, oh my God, I really don't enjoy doing disciplining grievances like me. I hate doing them. And I know that if I get that piece of work, I like to pass it on, basically.
yeah,
So but you may love that work and you may find L&D and recruitment really boring, but I guess it's really trial and error, really. Yeah, and just trying.
yeah,
um but
yeah,
but somebody could say, what happens if you don't get the opportunity to try? You're in
yeah.
your organization and you don't get that opportunity to try new things. What can you do then?
Yeah, well, I suppose, you know, entry
Mm,
level, if we're looking at
mm,
entry level
mhm,
HR roles, often they're recruitment coordinator,
mhm,
learning and development coordinator,
yeah,
HR administrator. That tends to be the
mm,
type of roles, HR assistant.
mm,
And so often, well, if I start, often people end up in HR after working in recruitment
mm,
because recruitment is often the biggest part of or the
mm,
busiest part of an HR role in the sense of that's the pressure point. If people are actively recruiting, the pressure
mm,
is on HR to get those people in. So recruitment coordination is quite a good grounding and a good starting point into HR.
mm,
But the generalist HR role
mm,
is where I
mm,
think most junior or you know entry level candidates get to cut their teeth in all the different
mm,
elements of HR. And I think
mm,
from there you often find that you favor parts of it as opposed to
mm,
other parts, as you said
mm.
earlier. So you may enjoy the generalist role. You may enjoy doing everything from, you
Yeah.
know, supporting with policies, discipline grievances, recruitment and
Mm,
selection, learning,
mm,
involved in everything. Some people love to be involved in the whole thing,
mhm,
and because it gives you variety and
mm,
lots of different things to learn and do. Other people find that they've got a passion for the
mhm,
learning and development side, you
mm,
know, and start to focus on that specific area, others recruitment and so
mhm,
on. I think we find that people, I've found that people tend to stay generalist until they get to sort of advisor, manager
mm,
level. And
mm,
that's where people start to see an interest in maybe one specific part and start to
mm,
specialize. Others go specialist straight from the very beginning, you know.
mm.
I think you know it, you feel it,
Yeah.
you know which parts you enjoy, and
Yes,
that's
you
where
do.
you tend to
Yes.
gravitate towards. Yeah.
Mm,
not everybody enjoys dealing with a discipline and grievance. You know, that it's a key skill. It's a key element of human resources, but not everyone enjoys it. So I think when you find you're not enjoying that more legal element of HR, that's when you find people move down the recruitment and training route.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. And I wanted to add that I do believe finding what you enjoy in HR is important, because I think
Yeah,
you can go on for years just being a generalist, and I have nothing. There's nothing negative about being a generalist, but there's always something in that generalist role that you prefer more than the others. And I do
yeah,
find that sometimes you should spread your wings and just specialize, because then you're able to get onto more of a strategic level in that area of your specialism. And I
yeah,
do find when you're generalist, it's really difficult to be a specialist in all the areas that you're generalist within.
yeah,
And in your organization, I do feel that if you don't ask to be put onto that lovely transformation and change project that you heard is happening in X and Y department, you won't get considered for it unless you put your hand up and say that I'm interested in doing it. Sometimes you get considered for things, but most of the time it's about trying to navigate your way to senior managers for them to consider you. Yeah, and I think that's important that
yeah,
you just make an effort to ask if you can get involved, basically. Yeah, and don't
yeah,
just expect that the organization will just offer
yeah.
you
And I think
opportunities. Yeah.
there's some really exciting stuff happening in HR right now, and you know, around engagement and culture and development. Development has always been a big thing, big area of HR to talk about. But we're looking after our employees differently, I think now. So we are focusing a lot more on mental health and well-being,
Yeah.
personal development, and empathy, and you know, leadership, and looking at leadership, kindness within the leadership environment. The HR role has become much wider, more creative, more exciting. More exciting. It's always been exciting, but you know what I mean. There's kind of key topics right now that are really exciting for HR professionals. And I think if you're coming into HR now, what a great time to come in, first of all. But secondly, really get up to speed with what is happening. What are the current trends? You know, the key to getting an HR role, a good HR role now, is to show that you understand what's happening in the marketplace. So as an HR graduate or someone who's coming up through the ranks, stay current, you know, read,
Yes.
listen, learn, stay current with what's happening, because that information and that knowledge will really help when you're going for an interview.
Yes, staying current is really important, and there's some good podcasts out there.
Yeah,
And my friend would be very happy if I mentioned the HR Director's Cut, because that was one of the new ones that I actually like listening to. And then I also listened to HR Uprising, and then I listened to the CIPD podcast, HR
brilliant.
Leaders with Chris Rainey.
Yeah, yeah,
So there's a few podcasts out there that are talking about new and exciting kind of topics, hot topics
yeah,
within HR. And one of the areas that I started looking into was this agile working, and
yes,
how HR can help the business to become more agile and support this agile working ethos, especially
yes,
now that we have part working from home, part working in the office, part working abroad. And how do you manage all of this? Within that kind of office environment. Yeah. And some
yeah.
offices are deciding to downsize dramatically, that they don't really have an office anymore. And it's just, yeah,
No,
your hub is your home now. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And actually, HR plays a big role
Mm,
in that for business.
mm,
So, you know, thinking about how you will support
mm,
a managing director or a
mm,
CEO in making that
mm,
transition into becoming a
mm,
hybrid working space, or
mm,
even a fully remote working space, and
mm.
how will that impact on my people, is what they're
Yes.
thinking about.
Yeah.
And what we need to be thinking about as HR professionals is, how can we make
Yeah.
this work? How can we ensure that we've got a really fantastic
Mm,
culture, even though we're
mm,
all working in a remote environment?
mm.
If we're hybrid, what are we doing with our people when they're in the office? Because the last thing we want to do is bring everyone into the office just so
Yes.
that they're on a Teams call with other people.
Yes.
You know, we need thinking about all of that. And so there's loads of
uh,
exciting things for us to think
yes,
about.
there's loads of exciting things. This collaborative working is one of the key things that, the buzzwords around HR, and how do you
Yeah.
make that work within that, hybrid, remote kind of agile working environment. Yeah. So thank you, Jenny. So moving on to the next question. You've talked about lots of the new exciting things that's happening in HR, and I think that would also filter into the question of why should I work in HR? If somebody said to me, why should I work in HR? I'm like, okay, HR is such an exciting career path to choose. You get involved in, lots of business decisions. You get involved in understanding, how to drive change through the organization for its people. You get involved in recruiting the right people, onboarding them and managing talent. You can even get involved in L&D. Anything you want to add? Just why would you want to work in HR, Jenny?
Wow, gosh. You know what? I think HR can make a huge difference to how a business attracts, retains, develops their people, and what then that does is really impacts on how that business performs as a business. So it can, the people make or break a brand, and we as HR people get to influence that a great deal. So I think working in HR can mean that we can create change, we can impact on how people feel. We can ensure that people feel great about coming into the workplace, feel supported, feel looked after, feel excited to perform a good job. That all sits as part of our remit to ensure that people ultimately are happy at work. And how cool is that?
Yeah, I know.
To do it.
Yeah, I know. How cool is that? So if you have somebody that comes to you, Jenny, for advice and guidance, they're already in HR and they just don't feel that they're getting enough support from the organization to grow within their role. And they're looking for you to assist them with finding them a new role. What's your process and how do you guide this person if they decide to register with you, or if you actually decided you could help this candidate? What's your
Yeah.
processes, Jenny?
So, gosh, I mean, I have a conversation, first of all. All of this is about conversation and connection. That is the key. So it's around finding out from that individual what's important to them. Why are they looking for a new job? What is it that's missing? What are they looking to achieve in the next opportunity? What are the key drivers? I have a Bohemian HR profile I send out to my candidates, and that asks key questions around what's important about the next job. That's really interesting. Majority of people talk about culture and
Yes.
hybrid working. That's your top two things that people are
Oh,
looking
really?
for.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people are generalists. That is still the kind of main HR role is generalist. So I ask people there, where do they want to work, generalist, etc. I ask about salary. I ask about number of days, flexibility, location, and then I ask what they feel are the most important things that are happening right now in the HR world, and what is important to them about their next job. So and often people will say to have a leader who embraces HR and have an environment where they can, develop a great culture. So there's a lot that I ask people when they first reach out to me to ensure that if we're going to work together, that I try and find them their right next opportunity. So that's kind of mission, fact-finding mission. But I will also give advice and guidance around how feasible it is. And there are a number of HR recruitment businesses out there, and we all only have a handful of jobs, and there are hundreds and hundreds of candidates. So, people have to explore different avenues in order to find that next job. We're not going to, unfortunately, find a job for every single candidate that registers. It would be lovely if that was the case. But then it's talking through what experience they've got and highlighting if there's gaps that are getting in the way of them finding a new role as well. Often, if you're a generalist, it may be that you've worked in an organisation that doesn't have a huge amount of ER issues, and therefore that candidate is weaker from an employee relations perspective, and they may need to enhance their understanding and skill set when it comes to employee relations. It may be that their sector experience isn't relevant, and therefore the client, finds it difficult to see the connection. And then what I'll do is advise on how to counteract those challenges in order to help them find the role that they want.
Perfect. Gosh, that sounds like a really long process, Jenny.
It's all conversation.
It's all conversations, I know, and it's
Yeah.
having that time. Are you still meeting with candidates now? Are you
Mostly
doing
in
some
this,
face-to-face meetings
mostly
in
in
this
this environment.
virtual environment?
Yeah. Yeah, virtual environment. More because I live in Aberdeen now, so and a lot of my candidates are based across the UK. So
yeah. It's amazing how this virtual environment really picked up, isn't it? You could be a HR recruiter anywhere in the world now.
Exactly.
And you can place in candidates anywhere in the world. It's amazing, isn't it, that the job is becoming, so agile. Perfect. So the other question I have, Jenny, is really about when you look at a candidate CV, and it's not always, I have to say, it's not always about qualifications, I have to say, but I do understand that certain organizations are expecting certain qualifications in HR. Okay. And this is, for me, it sometimes puzzles me, because when I speak with candidates and they've got their, for example, level 7 HR qualification, they've never really worked to that level in the organization. They really haven't. And when I speak to somebody who has worked at that level, but they don't have the qualification, I really feel, and then they say, well, I'm being held back because I haven't got that qualification. It really makes me quite sad, because I really feel that they've got the practical skills, but not that little certificate. So what's your views on CIPD qualifications? Do you feel that they're really important to get into HR, or do you feel it's nice to have? Or important for furthering your career? What's your views?
My views are that, so firstly, if someone has got a number of years experience of working in HR but no qualification, my view is that should not hold them back, because people have different opportunities and different, backgrounds and different entrances to the world of HR. And if they have the skill set needed for the job, that should be absolutely what is the priority. Saying that, I think a qualification, embarking on a qualification in the CIPD, can give a really nice grounding on all elements of human resources. So by doing the qualification, you get to understand every element of human resources, because there'll be parts of HR that you may not have had exposure to, and therefore may not understand how that can influence other elements of what you do. For example, engagement. It might be that someone is doing a generalist HR role in a company that hasn't really focused on employee engagement, so therefore doesn't really know the workings around how do I gauge my culture here. They don't have the tools behind them. Whereas if you do the courses, you can engagement, right? That's how you do that. Okay, I can implement that in my organization. So there's real benefits from doing the qualifications. Do I think it should be on a job description as a prerequisite? Probably not. But do I think it's useful? Definitely. So I don't think necessarily should be a selection tool, but I think it can really enhance a person's experience.
So no, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I really do. As you know, we are a CIPD centre, and of course, we run all the CIPD programs, level 3, level 5, and level 7, and I'm always intrigued to see what type of learners I get on each program, and a lot of them have experience of HR. Even the level 5s, quite a few experience of HR, but have never really received the qualification. And one of the reasons why they're getting it is because they feel that this will add credibility and provide more in-depth knowledge of some of the practical things they do in the organization. So, for example, they're managing a change project, and how would you manage change? Just a few theories behind managing change that they could utilize in the workplace. And when we go the theories, like, oh wow, so that's the reason why the organization did it XYZ way. Oh, maybe they were looking at the Kotter's theory, possibly, but even still, at least you can recognize that some of the approaches in the workplace and recognize some of the reasons why the organization have done it in a certain way. And then the other thing you mentioned about engagement, when you're trying to engage employees, there's so many different ways in which you can do this in the business, and a lot of businesses look at having like an employee value proposition, and which is basically what are our values that we're going to utilize to engage our employees and try to get our employees understanding our cultures. And this could come from the organization vision, mission, and value, and that filters down to getting more engaged employees. And then once we do this topic and then they recognize how an employee can do this, it really resonates with them, and they think, oh my God, now I'm actually understanding why I've been learning this topic and how it applies to my organization. So it does, there's definitely value, but it's a bit of hard work, unfortunately. And if you're and it is academic, and that's one thing I do say about the CIPD qualifications. It is academic, which means you've got to be somewhat confident in writing because it's all assignment based. And otherwise, if you don't feel so confident writing assignments, then there is that option to do this apprenticeship route. But still, the apprenticeships are not either or, it's CIPD plus apprenticeship. So you'll always have to write assignments. There's no other way of doing it. There's no other way around it, to be honest. No, unless you look at accredited prior learning or recognised prior learning route, where my centre doesn't do this yet, but hopefully in the future I can look at what prior experience do they have in HR, and does this link to some of the modules, and can I give the learner recognised prior learning, and which is credits towards some of the work. But the CIPD in the end don't say you don't have to do the assignment. They say, okay, you don't have to do some of the learning on the unit, but you still have to do the assignment. So there's no way around it. It's a very much assignment based qualification.
I suppose that I've done quite a bit of development myself around, I've done this job for 20 odd years, as I've said before, but there's you never know everything because it's evolving all the time. Often we're self-teaching ourselves through experience, aren't we? If something happens and we work out how to fix it or manage it. And I think formalizing with some sort of reading and some studying and qualification can allow us to see how it's done on a wider scale. So, I think the self-development, personal development, alongside reading and research and podcasts and doing the doing, all comes together and brings something really good.
Yes, I think so. And I think it's all positive. So the last question really, Jenny, is I guess in the show notes, you're going to leave all your details just in case people want to make contact with you. But at the moment, what would you say how the market is doing within HR? Because, I don't know, because I'm not recruiting so many HR people. I'm trying to get them doing courses with me. But is the market quite buoyant at the moment? Is it slowed down at the moment?
The HR market has been pretty busy for now, maybe the last 12 months, 18 months since we started to emerge out of the pandemic. We saw, as we keep maybe summer last year, I'm trying to think what year we're in now, summer 21, sort of to tail end of 2021 has been quite heavily change and transformation focused. And then as we emerged out of the summer, then talent acquisition roles where talent acquisition specialists were in huge demand. That seems settled down now, and we're seeing more HR roles coming through now. So there's some sectors are super busy, other sectors are less so. So for example, your startup tech organizations, there's lots happening in that space. So and I would recommend, if you've got graduates listening and finding experience or getting an HR coordination, administration, recruitment role in that environment could be really good for an opportunity to really cut your teeth in fast-paced, future thinking HR work. And then there are fantastic opportunities across the charity sector, public sector, And then we've got, typical sectors that have always been quite busy, like financial services, for example. So there's lots going on, lots of
Perfect. Yeah,
opportunity. And I think, but it's a minefield, isn't it? Looking
it
for
is.
work, because there's so many agencies, so many job ads,
Yes.
So I suppose my advice to candidates around should they be applying for, is be really true to yourself around jobs. So if you see a job, read it through and think honestly, is this a job for me? Can I do it? Do I want to work in this organization? Do I have the skill set, or could I
Yeah.
acquire the skill set to do it? Yes, push yourself a little bit, go for slightly more than maybe you think you deserve, because normally we're quite hard on ourselves when it comes to
Yes.
that. But only apply if you genuinely think you want the job. I think what happens in the market is often there's hundreds of applications and maybe only 50% of those applications actually want the job, but people are just applying because they really want to work.
Yes.
So make sure you want to work. And then it's about, how do I make myself stand out from the crowd? And that is the other thing is, make sure that your CV is aligned to what the client's looking for, that your keywords are shouting out relevant to the job that you're applying for. You want to stand out. There's a lot of people out there, so you need to stand out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there. You definitely need to stand out. And one of the things I was considering when I first started looking into jobs in HR, that was moving from recruitment, is salary. And there's a stark drop from moving from a recruitment position and then to a HR assistant, HR kind of generalist, administrator position. There is
Yeah.
definitely a drop, because when you're working in recruiting or even in-house recruiting, your salary is that much more higher. And then I always have this question from my learners. I'm working in recruitment. I really want to move more into a HR role, but I've looked at the salaries and it's, £6,000 or £7,000 less than I'm earning now. And then I have to convince them that actually it's a good move, because you get to learn all different areas of HR and you're not just focused on recruiting. And but it's very difficult to sell a career path to a potential, person who's looking for a new job when there's such a huge drop in the salary. How do you justify why there is a drop in the salary from recruitment salary to a
Yeah.
HR assistant or administrator salary? Why is there that difference?
So I think, are you meaning a recruitment agency? So somebody who's works in a
Yeah,
recruitment agency and
recruitment
looking for a
or
move?
in-house talent management. Yeah, and
Yeah.
looking for a move.
So
Yeah.
recruitment consulting, so agency
Mm,
style recruitment, is
mm,
more of it's yes, you're getting involved
mm,
in recruitment, but it's also a sales job. So you're
mm,
targeted and you're paid
mm,
according to
mm,
a
mm.
sales salary as opposed to
Yes.
internal. Then moving from in-house recruitment to HR, it depends. Every organization's
Mm,
different in
mm,
relation to whether or not they pay more
mm,
or less.
mm,
With recruitment, that is a specialist area. So
mm,
what you become a specialist in that field, therefore it will pay more money, but
mm.
your route is more narrow.
Yes.
So the next step for a recruitment coordinator is obviously a recruitment advisor or recruiter. Then you've got
Yes.
senior recruiter and
Mm,
so on. Whereas and the HR role is the same path,
mm.
but it's just the skill set. I think potentially recruitment
Yeah.
is really fast paced, quite demanding, quite pressured. There's an element of that that's
Mm.
pushed the salary up a little bit.
Mm. Yeah, and I would say that if you're considering moving from that path of recruitment agency or in-house recruitment to a more generalist HR kind of entry level role, your skill set will be broader. So you'll be developing different set of skills, and
Yeah,
because of that, you'd have to take maybe a compensation in your salary in order to expand out those skill sets,
to
and that would
relearn.
be
Yeah,
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 and that would be one of my key advice is, do you want to relearn? And if you're interested in learning and developing and you want to follow this career path in HR, it's almost like a necessary move to make.
yeah.
Um,
And I suppose
yeah.
one of the
Mm,
options could be that, as
mm,
while you're working as a
mm,
recruitment advisor or a
mm,
recruiter within an in-house environment, is to
mm.
be doing your study alongside
Yes.
and
Yeah.
sort of growing your skills. Because within in-house recruitment, you can get the exposure to the wider HR role
Mm,
if you just stick your head above the parapet and get a bit more involved.
Yes.
So
Yep.
linking in with your HR colleagues and asking
Mm-hmm.
to support their induction process or their onboarding
Mm-hmm.
process or
Yes.
the contractual side of things, so
Mm-hmm.
you could get more exposed while sitting in
Mm-hmm.
that in-house role, which would then allow you to maybe pitch yourself for slightly more experienced positions in the HR world and reduce
Yes.
that salary difference.
Yes. Yeah, that's really good advice, Jenny. Yeah, and studying alongside doing the a role in recruitment and getting more involved and asking for more opportunities at work is something that I would definitely advise my
Yeah.
learners to do. Perfect. Oh, Jenny, I think that's it. I think I'm questioned out now. Do you have any questions for me, Jenny?
I
I'm
don't
questioned
think
out.
so. I think
No.
what you're doing is brilliant. I think that
Oh, thank you, Jenny.
the opportunity,
Mm,
I think we should always be learning. I think it's really,
mm,
really important. And
mm,
I work with one of my clients, and we've been doing some
mm,
graduate recruitment with a client of mine in the change space. And actually, what's been so impressive about some of these new graduates coming
mm,
through and applying for the
mm.
job are the ones that have really put themselves out there and gained experience, but driven themselves to do it themselves, especially during the
Yes,
pandemic, where
yes.
there has been opportunity to volunteer and get
Mm,
involved
mm,
in the NHS
mm.
and things like that. People have really been able to
Yeah.
showcase how credible and how creative and how you have to think creatively around how I'm going
Mm.
to do this, and
Yes,
development is
you
definitely
do.
one of those things. Yeah,
No, you definitely do. And what we've decided to do as a centre, we've decided to join quite a few of the graduate fairs, and literally have a stand and hope that graduates see HR as a possible career path,
yeah,
and then have some general honest conversations with what HR really involves and what you could get into, and the pathway into HR, and thinking about a junior level qualification, a level 3 qualification as a stepping stone into HR. And at least giving you the foundations. So when you do start in HR, you'd understand a lot of the principles, practices, and a lot of the different areas that you possibly had never heard of before.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and I
so
suppose
that's
you build
mm,
a network of other people
mm,
in the HR
mm,
world. 'Cause some of the
mm,
best candidates I meet are the ones that have gone into maybe small growing companies, picked up a sort
mm,
of HR admin role and
mm.
grown with that company. And they come out at the
Yes,
end of maybe 5, 7 years and they're heads of HR or HR
yes,
managers of that
yes,
organization as it's grown. There's
yes.
real opportunity in the space in this space.
Yeah, there is. There really is lots of opportunities, and it's just finding that right one, and also being forward thinking about how you apply and research, and
Yeah,
really being driven. Basically, being driven, because I think this market is quite competitive, as you say,
yeah,
and there's lots more people looking than jobs at the moment, isn't there? So I definitely think
yeah.
that an element of competition is really important. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Thank you. That was
Thank you
lovely.
very much, and Jenny. Lovely speaking to you, and
You too?
we'll continue to be in contact with each other.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
I'll send you details of my graduate there, so if you could join
Yeah,
or if you're around, it could be of interest for you. Who knows? Perfect. Thank
lovely.
you very much, Jenny. Thank you for
Yeah,
taking the time today.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye bye.
Thanks. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.
Bye bye.